Have you ever wondered one of these two things? Either, why is it when you're mixing your colors, they look really vibrant in the tray, but you pick them up to mix them, and for whatever reason, they become muddy and kind of brownish and dull, even though you understand color theory, which by the way, I'm still not very good at. Or have you ever seen me or someone else painting and wondered why they use 2 jars of water? Well, you've probably gathered by the way that I've started this video that those two things are related. I should definitely start by saying that there are a few different reasons that when you're mixing different colors, they might end up a bit muddy and dull rather than bright and vibrant. But my guess is if you don't already know why I use 2 jars of water, it's quite likely that the 2 jars system is going to help you with the vibrancy of your color mixing. And it's pretty likely that you're going to see an improvement with the colors that you mix if you implement this strategy with the 2 jars of water. And if you do start the 2 jars water thing and you're still having trouble with mixing your colors, then at least you know that it's not the water that you're using that's muddying the colors. So without further ado, let me show you why I use 2 jars of water when I'm using watercolor paints. You will notice that I have a jar that is full of red water. So that's my warm colors jar. And you'll notice that I have another jar that is full of greenish blue water, and it's my cool colors jar. In the past, I may have told you, if you've been to one of my workshops or maybe even in my earlier videos, I can't remember, I may have told you that I would use 1 jar for clean water. So I would pick up the clean water on my brush from the clean jar, imagine this one's clean, and then I would put my brush into my paint and it would be lovely and crisp and bright. The color would be amazing because I would have only clean water on my brush. And my other jar, so we'll say this one, would be the dirty jar. That was fine. I would finish painting with my yellow, for example, and wash off my brush in the dirty jar, and then when I went to pick up my next color, I'd pick up water from my clean water jar and then put my brush into the next color. I personally got it mixed up all the time, so I just have 2 jars full of dirty water. And why does that matter? Because if you're using dirty water, for example, if this was full of brown murky water and I grabbed that brown murky water onto my brush and then put it into my yellow would then have a brownish sort of tinge to it because the water wasn't clean. So that method totally works, but if you are like me and get muddled up all the time, this method might be a bit better. So I have a warm colors jar and a cool colors jar. Practice if I'm painting with warm colors like yellow, orange, red, those kinds of colors, I'm going to use water from my warm colors jar. And when I'm ready to paint with a warm color, like any of the ones that I mentioned, I'll actually grab my water from there as well. It'll make sense in a minute. I'll show you it in practice, don't worry. The same applies for the cool colors jar. So why does it matter? I will show you how my yellow looks if I use my warm water. So I'm picking up water from my warm water jar, grab heaps of yellow paint on my brush to show you, and my brush is full of water from my warm colors jar and painting some yellow on the page. And you'll see that's really lovely and vibrant. Okay, so now I've cleaned off my brush with my warm colors jar. So I've got water from my cool colors jar on my brush and I'm putting it into yellow, a warm color, to grab the yellow on my brush. And I'm going to put it on my page and hopefully we'll be able to see a difference. Okay, so I can certainly see a difference. Not sure if the camera will pick it up, and I might even do that again. All right, I've got a heap of I got even more water this time, and I actually deliberately picked up some really blue water from in there that was like on the edges, so that hopefully it'll be really obvious. So I'm painting my yellow circle that has got cool colored water on it. And I reckon you can see that. There's a big difference between the yellow that was painted using the warm colors water. It's vibrant and it's bright and it looks amazing. These 2 yellows, this one you couldn't see a heap of difference, so I deliberately contaminated the brush a bit more just to exaggerate it. So I added some really quite dark blue paint from around the rim. So hopefully you can see that these yellows, particularly this one, are kind of grayish and muddy and not super vibrant. I'm gonna lift this up and show you. The 2 jars of water are really helpful for making sure your colors are really vibrant and lovely. If you try and make sure that, as a loose kind of rule, you use your warm colors jar for painting warm colors and your cool colors jar for painting cool colors. And as an added bonus, you won't have to change your jars of water so much as if you were either using just 1 jar of water, which would get dirty really quickly, or a dirty jar and a clean jar if you have the tendency to get the 2 jars mixed up. And if you've made it this far, you now understand why I use 2 jars of water. You are also very patient for sticking with me. So if you're wondering about watercolor supplies and what you actually need for watercolor painting, and you're not quite sure where to start, I've actually got a free guide for you that does go into detail with the 2 jars system and so much more detail about watercolor brushes and paper and paint and all of the things that you need to get started with painting, plus links to tutorials so you can actually get started straight away.